They say that there's a part of the Cascade Mountains where no birds sing, no animals scurry, no wind blows. Hikers call it Silent Ridge, but it's not on any map. Jason, a wilderness photographer, didn't believe that kind of folklore. He'd spent his career chasing myths, chupacabras, lake monsters, and even a supposed ghost bear. He never found a thing, but he loved the hunt, until he went to Silent Ridge. It started with a rumor. A local hunter had gone missing up there, and his brother swore something massive had dragged him away. Something with long arms and yellow eyes. Jason dismissed it. Probably a bear, but the man's face, it had something that stayed with him. Not fear, hollow. Jason hiked in alone, with a drone, camera, and a week's worth of supplies. The deeper he went, the quieter it became. The silence wasn't peaceful. It pressed in, like the whole forest was holding its breath. On the second day, he found the campsite. The missing hunter's tent was still there, ripped open from the inside. Blood soaked the frozen ground, but no body, just massive prints, like a barefoot man's, but twice the size with clawed toes. That night, Jason heard something walking in circles around his tent. Not running, pacing, watching. He held his breath, clutching a hunting knife. The sound continued for hours. Twigs snapped, breathing, heavy and wet, right behind the thin nylon wall. But when he looked outside, nothing. On day 3, his drone picked up movement in the trees. He zoomed in. There, half behind the trunk, was a shape, tall, covered in matted black fur. It had hands, not paws, fingers too long, and eyes that reflected red in the camera like coals. Then the drone feed cut to static. Jason tried to leave. The trail was gone, literally gone. Trees had shifted. What was once a straight path was now an endless thicket. Every direction looked the same, and every few hours he saw it again, just far enough to make him question it. The shape, the eyes, watching, following. The final footage on his camera, found months later by a search party, showed Jason whispering into the lens. "It doesn't kill you quick. It waits. It knows you're alone. It wants you to go mad. I can hear it. It's copying my voice. It sounds like me." A faint sound followed in the background of that final clip. A low growling voice. "Don't leave me here. Please," spoken in Jason's voice, but his body was never recovered. The hikers still say that if you camp near Silent Ridge, you'll hear footsteps around your tent at night, and a voice just like yours, whispering from the woods, "Come see what I found." They say the forest behind Crooked Pine Lake is cursed. When my brother Caleb and I decided to take a winter backpacking trip out there with 2 of our friends, Melissa and Dan, I brushed off the warnings like every other skeptic. Old folk tales about a beast that feeds on flesh and madness. Sure, every remote place has its legend. I believe now. God help me. I believe. We started hiking just as the sun dipped low behind the frozen ridges. Melissa joked about how horror movies always started with a group like ours. Caleb laughed too loud, probably trying to shake off the creeping silence. The trees here didn't just stand. They leaned, not from wind or age, but as if they were trying to whisper to each other behind your back. By nightfall, the temperature plummeted. We set up camp by a half-frozen creek. That's when we first heard it. Not an animal, not a human. Something between. A screech, thin and high, like a scream filtered through broken glass. Dan spun towards the sound with his flashlight, but only lit up falling snow and shadows. "Mountain lion?" he asked, but Melissa was already shaking her head. "There's no tracks," she whispered. She was right. Not a single print in the fresh powder. That night, I woke to the sound of breathing. Not soft or human. Ragged. Wet. I stayed still, my breath a white plume above me. Caleb was in his sleeping bag across the fire. Dan and Melissa were zipped together in theirs. The breathing wasn't coming from any of them. It circled the camp, heavy footfalls like hooves crunching ice. A shadow passed across the tent, long and tall. Antlers. I swear to God, it had antlers. I didn't sleep again. The next morning, Dan was gone. His boots were still at the fire pit. No prints leading away. We searched the forest, shouting his name. Caleb found what was left of him in the snow about 30 yards away. Just an arm, torn off at the shoulder, flesh black with frost. The snow hadn't fallen again. There should have been tracks, but there weren't. Just drag marks leading up to a tree and ending at its base. Above us, blood splattered across the bark. 10 feet high, we left camp without even packing. Melissa was crying. Caleb looked dead behind the eyes. I could feel something watching us. The forest was too quiet, like it was holding its breath. Melissa was the next to go. It was near dusk. We were hiking fast, hoping to make it back to the car by moonlight. She slipped behind a moment to pee. Just off the trail, we heard her scream. Not long. Just a sharp, short, no, and then silence. We ran back. She was gone. Only thing left was her phone. Screen cracked, laying face up in the snow. Still recording. Caleb picked it up. He played the last few seconds. I'll never forget the sound, crackling branches, heavy breathing, then a voice. No, a thing imitating her voice. Help me. I'm right here, but it wasn't her. The cadence was wrong, like someone who had never spoken English trying to mimic the sound of fear. It came for us that night. Caleb was shaking by the fire. It wants us, he kept saying. It likes the fear. Then he turned to me, his face pale. What if it's not just killing them? What if it's becoming them? I didn't know what he meant until I saw Dan walk out of the trees. His eyes were wrong, too wide, too bright. His skin looked like it had been stretched back to his skull. His mouth didn't move when he spoke. It's safe now, he said in a flat, hollow voice. Caleb screamed and threw the burning log at it. That was the last I saw my brother alive. I ran. I don't know how I found the trail. I don't remember the cold, the bleeding feet, the trees clawing at my clothes. I just remember the sound behind me. Not footsteps, not breathing. Whispers. They weren't in English, or maybe they were, but wrong. Words twisted, shuffled. It sounded like Melissa's laugh, Dan's voice calling my name, Caleb whispering, "Run." I stumbled into the ranger station sometime before dawn, covered in blood, frostbitten, alone. They never found the bodies. They think I went crazy, that I killed them. They say I keep mumbling in my sleep, speaking a language that no one can identify. But I remember the trees, the eyes, the way it stared at us like we were already meat. And sometimes, when the wind is just right, I can still hear it. It knows where I am. It's waiting. And worst of all, I think I brought something back with me. I grew up hearing stories of the Skinwalker. My grandfather, a Navajo elder, warned me never to whistle at night, never to wander alone after dusk, and all the above, never speak the names of the dead. I laughed it off as superstition until last November, when everything I thought I knew about the world was ripped apart. It started with a phone call. My cousin Jacob had gone missing up near Red Mesa. He was last seen hiking alone in the desert, taking photos for his freelance wildlife blog. His last text to his sister said, "Something's watching me, not a coyote." We didn't find a body, just his backpack, clawed apart like something with hands had ripped through it, not teeth. My aunt begged me to go look for him, and despite every fiber of my soul whispering, "Don't go," I agreed. I drove up to the mesa with nothing but a flashlight, hunting rifle, and my granddad's old Skinwalker protection pouch. Eagle feathers, white ash, crushed sage, just superstition. I didn't believe it'd actually do anything. God, I wish I had. Day 1. The first night I set up camp near where Jacob's backpack was found. I barely slept. Every time I drifted off, the wind howled through the rocks like screaming children. Around 2 a.m., I heard something walking around the tent. The steps were slow, calculated. I held my breath. Then came the voice. Caleb. It was Jacob's voice, but wrong, hollow, as if someone was trying on his voice like a mask and hadn't learned how to use it right. Come out. I'm hurt. I didn't move. I just gripped my rifle and stayed quiet. Minutes passed. Then I heard it run. It full-on sprinted away, on all fours. Something fast. Something heavy. When I finally stepped out at dawn, there were tracks in the dirt. Human footprints, but they were facing the wrong way, like someone had been walking backwards. Day 2. I ventured further into the canyons. The deeper I went, the worse it got. The desert felt off. The rocks pulsed with heat despite the cold. Flies buzzed in place, but there were no corpses. Then I found him, or what was left of him. Jacob's body was in a tree. No, strung up in a tree. Naked, skin peeled from his body like a grotesque suit hanging beside him. His face was missing, not eaten, cut off, neatly. I threw up until I couldn't anymore. My hands shook as I aimed the rifle at every sound, but I didn't leave. I couldn't, not until I avenged him. That night it came again. I didn't sleep. I waited, and when I heard the dragging sounds just outside my tent, I burst out, rifle raised. There it was. It stood 7 feet tall, hunched, wearing Jacob's face loosely stretched over a featureless grayish skull. His eyes still blinked. His mouth twitched. But the body was not human. Long limbs, pale skin, ribs poking through like jagged knives. It grinned at me. You should have stayed home, Caleb. Its voice was layered. Jacob's overlaid with something deeper, inhuman. I fired once, but the bullet went straight through the shoulder. No blood. It screamed, ear-splitting, like metal scraping metal, and disappeared into the rocks. Day 3. I wanted to run. Every instinct told me to get out, but I stayed. It was personal now. I found a cave the next morning, tucked behind a narrow crevice. The walls were painted in blood, dozens of faces, flayed and nailed to the stone. Old, fresh, young, even animals, a sick collection of trophies. At the center of the cave, a pit, and inside that pit, bones, hundreds of them. I backed away, heart pounding, and that's when I heard the voice from behind me. You brought me fresh skin. I turned too late. Something struck my head. I woke up naked, cold, bleeding from my side. My hands were bound in some kind of dried intestine. The skinwalker stood over me. Only it didn't look like Jacob anymore. It looked like me, my eyes, my hair, my teeth. Don't worry, it whispered in my exact voice. I'll be better at being you than you ever were. Then it crawled inside my skin. I felt it, bones snapping, flesh tearing, nerve by nerve as it slipped into my body. My skin stretched, re-stitched around something else. I was still inside. Watching, trapped. Now I sit in a hospital back in town. They found me, wandering the desert, bleeding and confused. They think I'm traumatized. I let them. But this isn't over. I'm not Caleb anymore. I'm what took him. And I'm hungry again.